إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So carrying on from the chapters regarding magic, باب بيان شيء من أنواع السحر, the chapter which clarifies some of the types of magic. So this chapter then, Shaykh Al Fawzaan, he says, مناسبة هذا الباب بعد الباب الذي قبله ظاهرة. The connection between this chapter and the chapter before it is clear. لأنه في الباب الذي قبله بين ما جاء من الأدلة في كتاب الله وسنة رسوله في حكم السحر وحكم الساحر، فتطلعت الأنظار إلى أن يعرف الناس ما هو سحر وما هي أنواعه حتى يتجنبوه. So in the previous chapter he mentioned the ruling on magic, the impermissibility of magic, and the ruling regarding the magician. So now in this chapter everybody is keen to find out what are these different types of magic. What are these different types of magic that must be avoided, that are impermissible? What kinds are they? How do they occur? ومن ثم يتعين على العلماء وطلبة العلم أن يبينوا للناس الحق والباطل، أن يبينوا للناس الحق وأدلته، وأن يبينوا للناس الباطل وأدلته وأنواعه. So the Shaykh says, therefore it is a must upon the scholars and the students of knowledge to clarify to the people the truth from the falsehood, and to clarify to them the truth with the evidences and the falsehood with the evidences. من أجل أن يأخذوا بالحق على بصيرة, in order that the people therefore take the truth upon insight, understanding, evidence. وأن يتركوا الباطل على بصيرة, and that they leave the falsehood upon understanding. وإلا فإنه إذا لم يبين الحق والباطل التبس على الناس. If the truth is not clarified from the false, then it will become confusing to the people. They will fall into confusion. It will become in a manner that they cannot understand. وَظَنُّ الْحَقَّ بَاطِلًا وَالْبَاطِلَ حَقًّا. And they will begin to think that the truth is falsehood and the falsehood is truth. So this must be clarified to them. So then the Shaykh, he says, وَمِنْ هُنَا يَتَعَيَّنُ عَلَى الدُّعَاةِ وَعَلَى الْخُطَبَاءِ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ وَعَلَى الْمُدَرِّسِينَ أَنْ يَعْتَنُوا بِهَذَا الْأَمْرِ وَأَنْ يُبَيِّنُوا لِلنَّاسِ أُمُورَ عَقِيدَتِهِمْ وَأُمُورَ دِينِهِمْ. Therefore it is something binding upon the callers and those who give khutbah in the masjid and the teachers that they clarify the correct aqidah to the people. فمن هنا حمل المصنف أيضا رحمه الله تعالى، أو ومما حمل المصنف أيضا رحمه الله تعالى على عقد هذا الباب أن هناك خوارق تجري على أيدي بعض الناس خارجة عن الأسباب المعروفة. The reason why the author has therefore mentioned this chapter is because this chapter where he's going to explain some of the types of magic that occur, the Shaykh says because it is witnessed in real life, in reality, that certain people out there do things, or certain things can occur which are out of the ordinary. Some people, they do things which are out of the ordinary. For example, al-mashi ala al-ma', walking on water, والطيران في الهواء, flying in the air, والإخبار عن الأشياء الغائبة, and telling you about where hidden or things which cannot be seen are, وإحضار الشيء البعيد, or bringing something to you which was very far away. How do they manage to do these things? وهذه الخوارق إن جرت على أيدي الصالحين فهي كرامات من الله سبحانه وتعالى، والكرامات ثابتة عند أهل السنة والجماعة. If these types of affairs that we've just mentioned, walking on water, etc., if these types of affairs or affairs similar to them occur to the righteous people, the believers, the righteous, the obedient, then they are miracles from Allah for them. And that can occur. We believe, and it is established, the miracles of the awliya of Allah. The miracles of the awliya of Allah, the righteous people. تجري على أيدي الصالحين إكراما لهم من الله سبحانه وتعالى. So it can occur for some of the righteous as an honor to them. Allah ennobles them and honors them that these miracles may occur for them. وقد تجري على أيدي الكفرة الفساق المنافقين فتكون هذه الخوارق شيطانية. But if these types of things occur from somebody who is a sinner, disobedient, kafir, disbeliever, transgressor, from those types of people who do these actions, then you know this is not a miracle for them. This is not ennoblement or honor for them. This is from the actions of the shaitan that they are performing. يفتنون بها الناس. They cause a trial for the people via these actions that they do. يلبسون بها على الناس. And they cause this deception and confusion upon the people via these things that they do through the shayateen. وهي إما سحر وإما بسبب استخدام هؤلاء الفساق للشياطين فيخدمهم الشياطين بهذه الأمور التي ليست من مقدور بني آدم. So they either do these things by magic or they use the shayateen. The shayateen, the jinn of the shayateen, they then aid them to do these things which are out of the ordinary for humans to be able to do, to walk on water or fly in the air. So these people who are disbelievers and sinners who perform these types of actions, it is because of the shayateen who are aiding them in that. But if similar types of things occurred for the believers, the righteous ones, the pious, that is miracles from Allah for them. وإما أن لها أسبابا خفية لم تظهر للناس من حيل يعملونها. And sometimes these people, the evil ones, they may perform these types of extraordinary affairs through deception and tricks that the people do not know, but they know them. فمن أجل التباس الحق بالباطل في هذه الخوارق أراد الشيخ أن يعقد هذا الباب ليبين أن هذه الخوارق من السحر وليست من الكرامات. So now we have this situation where these types of extraordinary things may occur to the righteous believers sometimes, and these extraordinary things might sometimes occur from the disbelievers and the wrongdoers. So how do you distinguish which one is a miracle from Allah, which one is not? For the believers and the pious, we said these are miracles from Allah for them. But for those disbelievers, they are not miracles. They are not ennoblement or honor for them. These are from the actions of the shayateen. So in this chapter now, he's going to mention these points so it becomes clear that what these magicians are doing, they are not the miracles of Allah that occur for the awliya of Allah. These magicians are working with the shayateen, with the jinn, and that's how they perform what they perform. فيجب أن نعرف هذا الباب والفرق بين الكرامات وخوارق الشيطان لئلا يلتبس الأمر ولئلا يتخذ المخرفون والمحرفون الخوارق الشيطانية دليلا على الولاية لله عز وجل فيعبدون هؤلاء من دون الله. So we have to be aware of this chapter so we can distinguish between what is the miracles for the believers and the righteous and between what is these satanic acts of magic and those types of affairs of these evil individuals. So then we have the first narration. قال أحمد حدثنا محمد بن جعفر حدثنا عوف قال أحمد حدثنا محمد بن جعفر قال حدثنا عوف قال حدثنا حيان بن العلاء قال حدثنا قطن ابن قبيصة عن أبيه أنه سمع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن العيافة والطرق والطيرة من الجبت. قال عوف العيافة زجر الطير والطرق الخط يخط بالأرض والجبت قال الحسن رنة الشيطان. إسناده جيد. So in this hadith now, Ahmad he narrates that Muhammad ibn Ja'far Ghundar, He narrated from Auf ibn Abi Jamila, المسمى بعوف الأعرابي, Imam ثقة مشهور. Hayyan ibn al-Ala, Hayyan, he is maqbool, acceptable in his narrations. Qatn ibn Qabisa, tabi'i, ثقة. عن أبيه قبيصة ابن المخارق الهلالي صحابي معروف أنه يعني قبيصة سمع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن العيافة والطرق والطير من الجبت. وتفسير هذه الألفاظ مروي عن عوف، وهو عوف ابن أبي جميلة المسمى بعوف الأعرابي، أحد رواة هذا الحديث. فقال العيافة زجر الطير، ومعناه التشاؤم بأصواتها وأسمائها ومسارها. So in this narration now, the Prophet ﷺ said that al-iyafa and tarq and tiyarah are all from the jibt, are all from this falsehood, from this magic, from the shaitan. But what are these things? Al-iyafa is zajr al-tayr, meaning they used to take superstitions from the birds, that the way that the birds sing, the melodies of the birds when they are singing, if it was a certain type, they would be optimistic about their affairs. But if they heard the birds singing in another type of melody, that would be superstition for them, that this is bad, that you shouldn't go out in your affairs today. Also by the names of the birds. If it was certain birds that they saw, they would be pessimistic. And otherwise, with the other names of other birds, they would be optimistic. وَمَسَارِهَا, and also the way the birds moved. Sometimes they would go to a tree and throw a stone into the tree. If the birds flew out to the right hand side, they would be optimistic. But if the birds flew out to the left hand side, then they would be pessimistic. التشاؤم. So these individuals then, معناه التشاؤم بأصواتها وأسمائها ومصارها. الطرق الخط يخط في الأرض من أجل استطلاع الأمور الغائبة، وهي طريقة جاهلية وهم لا يعلمون بها الغيب بذاتها، وإنما الشياطين هي التي تأتي لهم بما يريدون إذا تقربوا إليهم بالعبادة وكفروا بالله عز وجل، لأن الشياطين تريد إضلال بني آدم مهما استطاعت. The second one is الطرق. The Prophet ﷺ said الطرق is also impermissible, haram. الطرق is when they used to draw a line. They used to draw a line in the earth, in the ground, and they would believe that this line, observing it or making this line, would be able to give you information of the unseen. This type of line would give you information of the unseen. Similar to some degree to what people do now. They look at the lines on your hand and they say to you, I can tell from the lines on your hand your lifespan, your marriage, these things, those things. Completely haram, completely impermissible. These types of things when they do the reading of the hands, and they are magicians. Those types of people who engage in these affairs. So here they draw this line in the ground and they say from this line and the observations of it we can see the unseen. And in reality they do not see anything unseen. It is the shayateen that bring them information and news they give to the people, and the people consider how could they have known this, and they believe that they know the unseen then. But in reality it's the shayateen who have gone and brought this information to them. So these things, al-iyafa, wat-tarq, wat-tira. Al-tira is the superstitions that they used to have with the birds, etc., also in other affairs. All of these are from the jibt. Al-jibt, rannatu shaitan, ay sawtu shaitan. صوت الشيطان يشمل أشياء كثيرة منها الأغاني والمزامير. قال تعالى واستفزز من استطعت منهم بصوتك. وصوت الشيطان كل كلام باطل. صوت الشيطان كل كلام باطل وكل كلام كفر أو شرك. So the meaning of it, رنة الشيطان, the voice of the shaitan, the sound of the shaitan. But what that means is every type of false speech, every type of kufr, all types of shirk, that is meant by al-jibt, rannatu shaitan. So meaning therefore that al-iyafa, the iyafa, the tarq, All of these types of affairs, using the birds, the superstitions, how they move, the lines, drawing the lines, reading the palms, all of this is from shirk, therefore. All of this is from shirk, all of this is falsehood. So these types of activities are all types of magic, therefore. فالعيافة نوع من أنواع السحر والطرق نوع من أنواع السحر والطيرة نوع من أنواع السحر. So all of these types of activities, whether it's the birds and how the birds fly to the left or to the right, or the sounds that they make, the way that they sing, or drawing the line in the sand and considering you can see the unseen via this line, or the superstitions that they used to have with regards to the birds and their movements, all of these different types of superstitions that they had, and there can be multiple different superstitions, and some of them will be mentioned in more detail later again. All of these are from the types of magic. When they used to engage in these types of activities and believe in these types of activities, then all of that is from the types of magic that they used to engage in. كلها من أنواع السحر لأنها من الجبت والجبت السحر كما سبق. فالسحر إذن كلمة عامة تجمع شرورا كثيرة إما قولية وإما عملية. Therefore magic is a wide term. It is a comprehensive term, magic. It includes many things. It's a general term, a generic term, which includes many of these false different types of activities that they used to do. All of these come under the types of magic. These superstitions, these drawing of lines, these reading the palms, etc. All of these come into the types of magic. So magic, sihr, that word is a generic term for all of these falsehoods. ولأبي داود نعم وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The second narration now of Ibn Abbas, where the Prophet ﷺ said, من اقتبس شعبة من النجوم فقد اقتبس شعبة من السحر زاد ما زاد. رواه أبو داود وإسناده صحيح. In this narration now, the narration of Abu Dawood, or narrated in Abu Dawood, the book of Abu Dawood, Sunnah Abi Dawood, وهو الإمام المشهور سليمان بن الأشعث صاحب السنن المشهورة بسنن أبي داود وهي إحدى السنن الأربع. So this is narrated by Abu Dawood now, this hadith of Ibn Abbas, where it mentions that the Prophet ﷺ said, whomsoever اقتبس شعبة من النجوم, meaning that whomsoever learns some knowledge of the stars. They mention it as astrology. Whomsoever learns that astrology, فَقَدْ اقْتَبَسَ شُعْبَةً مِّنَ السِّحْرِ, then he has indeed taken or grasped or has a portion of magic. He has learnt or taken on board a portion, a section of magic. The one who goes on to study this affair of astrology. قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم من اقتبس شعبة يعني تعلم الشعبة الطائفة أو القطعة. So whomsoever learns even a section of astrology, a type of astrology, parts of astrology, من النجوم يعني من علم التنجيم. والتنجيم معناه اعتقاد أن النجوم تؤثر في الكون. كما قال شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية هو نسبة الحوادث الأرضية إلى الأحوال الفلكية. That these events which occur upon the earth, they are connected to the movement of the stars and the way that the stars they come into constellation. Those constellations of the stars, the movements of the stars, the people used to believe they are what cause the events of the earth to occur as they occur. That those stars are what decree how certain events occur. So that is no doubt from falsehood. Something similar to that now, very similar to that, identical to this affair is star signs. The constellations and the star signs. Reading your star signs is haram. It is impermissible. It comes under this chapter of this type of magic that they used to do with the stars and the astrology. So learning those types of affairs, reading into those types of affairs is impermissible. Even if somebody says that I'm just doing it out of interest, I'm interested, it's curiosity to read what my star sign says, it is haram to read those star signs, to be engaged in them, to practice them in any way. ولا تزال آثار هذه الخصلة الجاهلية في عصرنا الحاضر فيما يظهر عند المنجمين والذين يذهبون إليهم وبما يكتب في بعض الصحف والمجلات من أحوال البروج. In fact, Shaykh Al Fawzaan mentions it right here. He says these star signs and these constellations, they write about them now in the magazines and in the papers. He says that is something which we have in our time right now, up until our time right now, when they write about these star signs in the magazines and in the newspapers. لأن نسبة هذه الأمور إليها في طلوعها أو غروبها أو إلى الأفلاك في تحركها شرك بالله عز وجل. شرك بالله عز وجل. Because associating what occurs to you, the decree of the events that occur on this earth, to the star signs and the constellations, that is shirk. And that is what star signs do exactly. They say your star sign is such and such, Pisces, Sagittarius, whatever the star sign they call them. Then they say, in this star sign for this month, this is going to happen to you, that's going to happen to you. So they're associating the events to that star sign and that constellation. That is exactly what this chapter is talking about, which is haram and impermissible, and from the affairs of magic. So the Shaykh says that type of thing, it exists to our time. لأن نسبة هذه الأمور نعم شرك بالله لأن الذي يدبر النجوم ويدبر الأفلاك ويدبر الكون كله هو الله سبحانه وتعالى فيجب أن نؤمن بذلك. Because the one who decrees all of the affairs is Allah, not the constellations or the stars and how they move and what star sign you are. Your star signs, your constellation, those affairs do not decree what will occur to you and what will not. Rather, it is Allah who controls all of the stars and all of the creation and the decree. أما النجوم وأما الأفلاك وأما جميع المخلوقات فليس لها تدبير وليس لها إحداث شيء أو جلب نفع أو دفع ضر إلا بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى فالأمر يرجع كله إلى الله. As for anything in creation, whether it's the star signs or the stars or the moon or anything else in creation, they do not have the ability to control how the affair occurs, the decree, or bring about something, or remove harm, or bring you good. They are not able to do any of that. Rather, all of that affair returns back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ويجب على المسلم أن يعتمد على الله وأن يتوكل على الله ولا يتأثر بما يقوله المنجمون والفلكيون. So the person must have his dependence and trust in Allah, and not to put his trust or be affected or impacted by these astrologers and these star signs and all of that nonsense. Not to be affected by that. The stars, it's mentioned in the hadith, in the narration it's mentioned the stars were created for 3 reasons. Or there are 3 things behind the stars, regarding the stars. What are those 3 things?
Traveling.
One is mentioned, علامات يهتدى بها. They are signs that you can guide yourself with. Sailors and things use their compasses with the stars, the north star, the east star, they know which direction they're going. So the stars can be used for that, the directions. Because you know a certain star is in a certain direction, the north star, the south star, the east star. You know where the stars are, their directions, so you can work out where you're going. That's one thing which is mentioned, correct? 2 other things. زينة للسماء, to make it a beautification for the sky. Stars are there, they make the sky beautiful. That is another thing. And one more. رجوما للشياطين, as the shooting stars which hit the shayateen who climb on top of their backs to reach and steal information from the heavens, as we already covered. So the shooting stars, the stars are made for that too. They aim at the shayateen. So those 3 reasons have been mentioned in the narration regarding the stars. Over and above that, star signs, constellations, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. All of that is falsehood, and all of that is from these types of magic. Not allowed and permissible at all. Not allowed, not permissible at all. أما تعلم حساب منازل القمر من أجل معرفة مواقيت العبادات ومواقيت الزراعة والبذور فلا بأس به. وهذا ما يسميه العلماء بعلم التسيير. As for having some knowledge about the affairs of the stars or the sun, etc., to determine what the seasons are. The seasons of the year, when is it appropriate to do the agriculture, to sow the seeds, when is it appropriate to reap that crop. Those types of things can be determined from the seasons, and the seasons can be determined from the movement of the sun and the stars. That type of knowledge is permissible. That type of knowledge is directly linked to the movement, like the sun now. The sun, you look at the movement of the sun during the day and you can work out the times of the prayers. That is permissible clearly. When you see the sun has risen, you know the time for Fajr has ended. You see the sun moving across to the other side of the eastern side to the western side, you know now that the Dhuhr time has started. You see the shadow going to the same length, the sun is moving, you know that the Asr time has begun. It has set, you know the Maghrib time has come. So that movement of the sun gives you those times. Like that, the Shaykh says here, that amount of knowledge from the stars and the sun to determine the seasons of the year and when the time for agriculture is suitable, those people know these affairs from those. That is permissible. أما الاعتقاد بالنجوم بأنها تؤثر فهو علم التأثير وهو المحرم. As for having belief that these stars and constellations have an impact upon the earth, they have an impact upon the decree, and what happens, like these people who believe in the star signs believe, that is impermissible, that is haram. So whomsoever learns this astrology and gets involved in those types of affairs, which are beyond what's allowable, فَقَدْ اقْتَبَسَ شُعْبَةً مِنَ السِّحْرِ, then that person has learnt a portion, a section of magic. If you get involved in that type of astrology. وهذا هو الشاهد من الحديث الباب حيث دل على أن التنجيم نوع من أنواع السحر لأن كلا من المنجم والساحر يدعي علم الغيب الذي اختص الله تعالى بعلمه. So this type of knowledge of astrology is a type of magic. Because those people, astrologers and looking at the moons and the stars and the star signs, they are claiming to have knowledge of the unseen. When they write your star signs, they are claiming to have knowledge of the unseen. They are saying, this next month, these things are going to happen to you. They are claiming knowledge of the unseen. And that is the same as the magician who claims knowledge of the unseen. So in that way, both of these are types of magic. And these individuals engaging in these star signs, writing about what's going to happen to you in the future, they are now claiming to have knowledge of the unseen, and that is therefore similar to the magicians, and that's why it's considered as a type of magic also. زاد ما زاد يعني كل ما زاد من الاقتباس زاد من السحر فمقل ومستكثر فهذا تحذير من الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. He will increase the more he increases in his knowledge, meaning the more you start to get involved in that astrology, the more you start getting involved in star signs and all of that nonsense, then the more you start falling into this type of magic. The more you learn and the more you go into that and delve into that, the more you misguide yourself into that affair and the magic. So this is why it's impermissible to engage, to learn about that astrology, the star signs and those affairs. فَالْإِنسَانُ لَا يَجُوزُ لَهُ أَنْ يَتَعَلَّمَ التَّنْجِيمَ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِ الْمُشْرِكُونَ لأنه سحر وشرك بالله عز وجل وادعاء لعلم الغيب الذي لا يعلمه إلا الله سبحانه وتعالى. So therefore it's not permissible for a person to learn this type of astrology that the mushrikeen used to be upon, because that is a type of magic and shirk, and it is claiming to have knowledge of the unseen that you do not have. والنجوم إنما خلقت لفوائد بينها الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه. The stars have been created for certain benefits which Allah has clarified in the Qur'an, and they are, as we mentioned, for beautification of the sky, as pellets or missiles against the shayateen, and as signs to be guided via them to the different ways. Then after that, وَلِلنَّسَاءِ مِنْ حَدِيثِ أَبِي هُرَيْرَةَ من عقد عقدة ثم نفث فيها فقد سحر ومن سحر فقد أشرك ومن تعلق شيئا وكل إليه. In this hadith of An-Nasa'i, the Prophet ﷺ says, من عقد عقدة, that whomsoever ties one of these knots, and that we mentioned at the beginning, tying these knots, these types of things, the magicians do that stuff. So whomsoever ties these knots, من عقد عقدة هذا من عمل السحرة يعقدون الخيوط ثم ينفضون فيها. So they tie these knots and then they blow into them. They tie these knots, they spittle into them, they blow into them. والنفث هو النفخ مع الريق. So they like spittle. They do the spittle, a small amount of spittle and blowing into those knots to cause this magic. ينفث فيها من ريقه الخبيث لأنه متكيف بالشيطان فريقه ممزوج بالخبث والتأثير الشيطان. So فريقه ممزوج بالخبث وتأثير الشيطان. So the saliva of these magicians, the spittle of these magicians is mixed in with the evil of the shayateen who he's working with. So when he spittles upon these knots that he ties and he blows into them, then this is from the affairs that they do to cause this magic. وَقَدْ يَضُرُّ مَنْ وُجِّهَ إِلَيْهِ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And that can then harm. It can harm somebody who this magic is being directed towards by the permission of Allah. And it must be by the permission of Allah. It will not occur otherwise. وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. They cannot harm anybody except by the permission of Allah. وَقَدْ أَمَرَ اللَّهُ نَبِيَّهُ بِالْإِسْتِعَاذَ مِنْهُ فِي سُورَةِ الْفَلَقِ. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Prophet ﷺ and all of us to seek refuge in Allah from this magic and these knots that the magicians they tie and the sorceresses they tie. So it's mentioned in Surah Al-Falaq as we did before, وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. النفاثات السواحر والعقد هي العقد التي في الخيوط. So these magicians and these sorcerers and sorceresses, they tie these knots and they spittle into them, they blow into them and they make their magic from that. So Allah has told us in the Quran, seek refuge in Him from that type of magic and that evil that they do. So whomsoever gets engaged in that type of activity, this narration says, فَقَدْ سَحَرْ. Then that person has performed magic. If you're engaging in that type of activity, tying the knots and spitting into them and doing those things, then you're doing magic. This is what the magicians do. So the one who performs that, he has performed magic. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, and whomsoever performs magic, وَمَنْ سَحَرَ فَقَدْ أَشْرَكَ. Then that person has committed shirk. هذا هو الشاهد من الحديث أن من أنواع الشرك عقد العقد والنفث فيها بقصد السحر. To tie these knots and things and spittle and blow into them with the intent of causing magic. لأن الساحر لا يتوصل إلى سحره إلا بالاستعانة بالشياطين. وإذا استعان بالشياطين فقد أشرك بالله عز وجل. Because the magicians, they cannot perform their magic except if they use the help of the shayateen. And if they use the help of the shayateen, they submit themselves to them, they humble themselves to them, and they get the help of the shayateen, that's where they are committing their shirk then. They are committing their shirk to be able to perform this magic. Then the narration says at the end, وَمَنْ تَعَلَّقَ شَيْءٍ وُكِلَ إِلَيْهِ. And this we've already covered before, whomsoever attaches himself to something, he will be left to that thing. So if you attach yourself to this type of affair, to these magic and magicians and whatever else, you'll be left to your own deeds, to your own devices with them. And you'll never get any success from that. فَمَنْ اعتقد في السحرة والكهان والمشعوذين والمنجمين والأموات والأولياء أنهم ينفعون أو يضرون من دون الله وكل إليهم عقوبة له وتخلى الله سبحانه وتعالى عنه ووكله إلى هؤلاء الذين لا يملكون ضرا ولا نفعا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا وتنقطع صلته بالله الذي بيده الملك والذي بيده الخير والذي يرحم عباده ويرزقهم يكله الله إلى هذه المخلوقات الضعيفة لأنه اعتمد عليها وتوكل عليها وخاف منها ورجاها فيوكل إليها. So this individual now who puts his trust and his dependence and his attachment to magicians, to fortune tellers, to sorcerers, to these types of things, he will be left to them. And Allah will not be in that person's aid any longer. That person will be left to those magicians, and those magicians and those types of people will not do nothing for him. They will not be able to do anything for him. فَمَنْ ذَهَبَ إِلَى مُشَعْوِذٍ يُرِيدُ مِنْهُ الْإِعْلَاجِ وَالشَّفَاءِ مِنَ الْمَرَضِ وَكَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. So whomsoever goes to a magician or a sorcerer or a fortune teller, these types of people, because he's ill and he wants cure from them, then Allah will leave this individual in their hands. See if they cure him. They will not cure him. They will make him even worse and put even more evil upon him. But because he's put his trust into those people, then he is abandoned and left with those people alone, and they will not bring him any good whatsoever. وَمَنْ سَأَلَ كَاهِنًا أَوْ عَرَّافًا عَنْ شَيْءٍ مِنَ الْأَشْيَاءِ وَكَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ إِذَا اعْتَمَدَ عَلَيْهِ. And if somebody goes to a fortune teller and asks him about something, about some affair, something which is missing, some future thing, then he will be left again to his own devices with that person, and he will not have the aid of Allah. وَمَنْ تَوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَتَعَلَّقَ بِاللَّهِ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى وَخَافَ اللَّهَ وَرَجَاهُ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَتَوَلَّى أَمْرَهُ. Whomsoever fears Allah and trusts in Allah and depends on Allah, then Allah will take care of that person's affairs. Then Allah will take care of that person's affairs. As Allah says in the Qur'an, وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. Whomsoever puts their trust in Allah, then Allah is sufficient for them. Allah is sufficient for them. أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِكَافٍ عَبْدَهُ. Is Allah not sufficient for His servant? Then certainly He is. فَمَنْ تَوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَفَاهُ. وَمَنْ تَوَكَّلَ عَلَى غَيْرِ اللَّهِ وَكَلَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَى ضَعِيفٍ عَاجِزٍ لَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا لَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَلَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ. So whomsoever puts their trust in Allah, then Allah will look after his affairs, guard over his affairs. And whomsoever puts their trust in others besides Allah, then that person will not find any aid or assistance from those others. Then after that we have the narration of Ibn Mas'ud. Or before that, the Shaykh then mentions, ولذلك نجد الخرافيين والقبوريين دائما في قلق ودائما في خوف ودائما في ظل لأنهم تعلقوا بغير الله. That these individuals, the deviated ones, the grave worshippers, the distorted, deviated, misguided ones, those types of people are always in a state of worry and concern and discomfort. They're always in that type of state, fear and degradation. They're always in these types of states because they've put their trust and their attachment to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ونجد الموحدين الصادقين في قوة وفي أمن وفي سرور بال وراحة نفس وطمأنينة لأنهم توكلوا على الله. As for the people of Tawheed, then they are the ones that you find who are upon strength and upon security and safety, and they have peace of mind, and they have tranquility and peace of themselves and serenity, and they are at ease and comfort because they have put their trust in Allah. Whereas those others who have put their trust in others besides Allah, then they are always in a state of grief. وَمَنْ عَبَدَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ تَوَلَّى اللَّهُ أَمْرَهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَنَجَّاهُ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ وَأَدْخَلَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. And whomsoever worships Allah and puts his trust in Allah, then Allah will save that person and guard that person in this world and in the hereafter, and save him from the punishment in the hereafter, and enter him into paradise. So this is the difference between the one who put his trust in Allah compared to those who put their trust in these deviants and magicians and fortune tellers. That's why we'll leave it at that point today, and we'll continue with the next sections from the next lesson. There are still several chapters to go regarding this magic and the different types of it, so we'll carry on mentioning those issues and points from the next lesson, inshallah ta'ala, from next week. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.